Welcome back to All Gamers, the home of all things gaming. And if you're a PUBG fan, you might have noticed that the brand new map, Sanhok, is now officially live on PC servers for PUBG, letting players fight or die over every inch of its condensed tropical island. New weapons are included and the pace of the game has increased, but you can still apply the same principles as before when choosing where to loot. The main rule is to expect the fighting an awful lot more as you'll be running into players very often. That said, Sanhok is packed with exciting new locations to visit, and some of them are an awful lot better than others. Here are the places we think you should be dropping to loot and why on Sanhok. Now, if you guys enjoy this video, feel free to drop a like, and of course, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding PUBG and all things gaming. First things first, let's take a look at Ruins. This is pretty much the new school. Despite being a relatively small location on the map, Ruins draws plenty of players each round. With a flat open roof and single internal floor, any shootout here is likely to be over in a matter of seconds, so you'd better be sure you can get down quickly. Now that you've reached the final release, it's also one of the more visual intriguing locations on the island, making it well worth a visit at least once. Unless you can land first and directly on a weapon, we recommend entering on the lower level to avoid the initial carnage and to pick off the survivors. Don't land at the base of the building, however, as you need to walk up the outer stairs before you can get inside. Just be aware that the only way up onto the roof is an exposed ramp in the heart of the building. After that, we have Cave, which Sanhok's plan for an open-air cave system has been talked about for quite some time prior to the map's launch, so we're glad to see that it retained itself in the final version. It requires a careful spot of parachuting to enter correctly, but Sanhok's cave system is certainly an exciting start to the match. The internal area is pretty open, but your best chance comes down to landing on the higher levels of the central scaffolding, grabbing a weapon and taking down those scrambling for guns on the floor below. Best of all, you can leave by dramatically jet skiing out of the back of the caves as if you were reenacting the end of Resident Evil 4. Boot Camp is the real military base of the new map and is genuinely an enjoyable place to fight. Located dead center, expect droves to drop here, and if you can claim victory, however, the loot will be more than worth it. The central gully and raised platforms on either side always contain some high-end gear, but it can easily make for a death trap at the start of the match, so you're best off landing on the roof of one of the buildings which ring the compound and only heading inwards once your sector is clear. Even when the starting fight has finished, you'll need to keep your wits about you. Plenty of players will drop near to boot camp and move in once the gunfire dies down. It's a sneaky tactic to try and take out the beleaguered survivor, so make sure you aren't caught out. If boot camp sounds a bit too spicy for you, consider flying to Camp Alpha, Bravo, or Charlie instead. Whichever is furthest from the plane path will see you meet the least resistance and still earns you more than enough gear for a couple of players. Did we say that Ruins was the new school? Well, actually, Paradise Resort may as well end up being more accurate. While Temple's battles may end in a matter of seconds, the larger multi-building compound of the resort draws the fight out a good bit longer. That said, we've found fewer players dropping here since the early tests, with most preferring to fight it out in boot camp. This is good news for you as you'll find more than enough equipment here to get set for the rest of the match. You will have to fight for it though. It's easily one of the coolest looking locales the map has to offer, but be warned, the rooms in the three main buildings can prove hit or miss. We've landed early in multiple games to find the top floor of our chosen building entirely devoid of weapons, the result of which is a short bullet-ridden trip back to the main menu. Plenty of guns can spawn on the open ground under trees towards the outer edge of the compound, and we found the west side to be the most profitable. So if you're one of the first players there, try to land as close as you can to a weapon and snaffle it up before anyone else. Otherwise, entering the ground floor or outer buildings to the west is as safe as you're going to get here. Stick to the ground floor and circle around the outer edges of the compound as you scout out who else is alive. There's not much here to distinguish Painan from the places like Hatsin or Sami in terms of loot, but the setting makes for some pretty cool gunfights. With the river splitting the small village in two, battles tend to occur on either side before the winners on each turn to face each other. It's a fun arena to take the fight in, and having squads duke it out on either side of the water is quite a spectacle. And realistically, thanks to the increased drop rates for higher tier guns and gear, it's possible to land pretty much anywhere on Sanhok and come away at least moderately well equipped. For example, we landed in a small cluster of buildings on the north side of the island and came away with more than enough ammo, weaponry, and healing to see us through the rest of the match. Even if your building doesn't have much, it won't be a long journey to the next set where you can stock up on more supplies. If you're looking for a quieter landing using this method, you'll need to pay close attention to both the flight path and the circle. The first ring will already be visible on the map when the plane sets off, so to find a safe spot, you'd do best to avoid heading towards the ring. But most importantly, you should travel far from the plane's route. Due to the smaller island, dropping anywhere close to the plane's path will most likely see you in combat seconds after you land. Then again, you probably shouldn't be playing on Sanhok if it doesn't sound like your cup of tea. As far as the map goes, Sanhok is pretty generous, but there are a few locations that we honestly think are best left alone. The northern Tatmok offers so few buildings in such an open area that you're better off landing at the nearby Kao or even the isolated buildings nearby. Ban's unique design might look exciting with its raised wooden walkways, but unfortunately landing on these via parachute can prove extremely fiddly, and you'll often find yourself tossed to the floor, weaponless. Considering how open the spot is, you're likely to end up dead even if you're lucky enough to snag up a weapon early on. It's worth a trip just to see the unique environment, but best crossed off the list when hoping to progress far in the game, as even the loot itself isn't anything special. As for final tips, well, in general, games of Savage play out in the same manner as typically PUBG matches do, but with the encounter rate dialed up to 11, expect to run into players regularly and make sure to scan the horizon constantly as you move. Sound is also crucial at all times, so if you're sprinting around the bush at full pelt, you'll likely get dropped by a sneakier player, so keep your movement short and carefully planned. And also, if you thought bush camping was bad on Erangel, prepare to be infuriated on Sanhok. Most of the map is coated in long, dark green grass, which makes spotting players damn tricky. Combine that with a broad, ferny bush, and you can become all but invisible with the right positioning. In third-person perspective, this is incredibly powerful, as you can see the images on screen. Check the bushes around you carefully in the latter stages of the game and make sure to use them yourself where possible. But if you've mastered all these tips, well, you should be able to land and prosper in the brand new PUBG map Sanhok. So thanks for watching, we'll see you later, and take care.